Do you remember, are there any books on that list of 50 he gave you that
Yeah.
stand out that are like, wow, this changed the trajectory of where I was going? And then did any of those books make it on the list that you then in turn handed to your children?
Yeah, and it's more, I would say it's more authors than it is individual books.
Hmm.
But like one of the first five books I read was John Maxwell's seminal work on leadership, Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And one of those laws was the law of the cap, where you can't you will be capped by a limited leader, and you will limit the growth of the people behind you if you cap their growth, because you can't lead people where you haven't been. I was working for a financial planning firm, and I had this vision to work with people in the pharmaceutical industry, because we were told to go sell insurance, go sell annuities, go sell disability insurance, that kind of stuff. But what I had identified was that there was folks in the pharmaceutical industry that, gosh, they had they made a great income, and the folks I was talking to at the time were making 150 to $250,000 a year in base salary. But then they were making another 100,000 a year in bonuses, and they were making another $100,000 a year in long-term incentives. And so, these are folks that between their bonuses and long-term incentives, they had 100 to $150,000 a year in after-tax cash to invest. And so in my mind, I was like, well, they only need to buy insurance once, at least right now. But, if I could find 100 households to give me $100,000 a year of new assets under management, that'd be $10 million at 1% fees. That's $100,000 a year in recurring fees that's stackable. I do that for 10 years and I've got $1 million a year of recurring revenue, not commission revenue, recurring revenue.
Hmm.
And that was kind of the mindset that I started out with. Well, then I went to my boss and said, this is what I'd kind of like to focus my time on. And he said, that's not what we do. That's not our business model. Well, all of a sudden I ran into the cap.
Mm.
And so it was less than a year from the time Brad Harris had that conversation with me to the time I left and went independent on my own.
Really?
So I was
Wow.
out that 50 books and I was gone within a year,
Was it
to
that
go start
clear,
my own
Wayne?
practice.
What in the hindsight is always 2020,
Yeah.
but in that moment, were you literally kind of like your son was like calling it out in the moment? Were you like, oh, this is the cap John Maxwell was talking about. I'm out. Was it that crystal clear or just not so much?
Yeah. So the moment you have these moments, right? So
Hmm.
what happened was I had that conversation. He said, well, that's not what we do here. But I was also doing research because I was in a business model where, there was a certain payout percentage, contracted payout percentage. And that was, here. And I was talking to the guys on the independent side, and their payouts were like here. And
Hmm.
now those guys have to pay for their own office. They got to hire their own staff. They got to do a lot of their own things.
Hmm.
But I quickly went back and did the math, and so I went back to my boss and I said, all right, well, if I'm going to stay, not able to do what I think I have a vision to be able to do, if I'm going to stay in this business model, I at least need, like, what's the vision for me moving from here to there? And maybe it's not all the way there because you still got to make a profit and that kind of thing. But what's the vision for me going from here, like, higher than that? And he, without blinking, he said, Wayne, you're not a big enough fish to ask those kinds of questions.
Mm.
That was the moment my heart quit.
Yeah.
That day, that moment, I knew. I went home and I told May, I don't know what I'm doing. I might be going back to landscaping like I was doing in high school and college. But a year from now, I won't be working for this guy, because that's the moment I hit the cap. And I knew it, and I could articulate it, and I could
Yeah.
define it.
Yeah. Well, and there's a leadership lesson in that moment. And I've seen leaders with two different mindsets. I've seen the leaders that it's kind of, they actually try to create that cap and like, hey, you're at this level and everything below this kind of, it's almost like smashing you down from the
Yeah.
top. And then I've seen leaders where it's, hey, my goal here is to grow you as much as humanly possible. And
Right.
if that means someday you outgrow this and do your own thing or take your own entrepreneurial journey,
Yeah.
that's okay because we had a season here together. And imagine had he taken that second route.
Right.
And who knows how long that would have lasted there, but I promise a high performer like yourself would have stayed a lot longer.
Yeah, absolutely. What's crazy is I can name half a dozen guys today who are running two, three, $400 million businesses, assets under management businesses in the
Hmm.
financial planning space who all work for that guy. That guy has birthed
Mm.
probably a dozen major competitors, just within 20 miles of his office. Now
Mm.
he's retired. That guy's retired at this stage, and I believe his son's taking over the business. So I wish the son well. But at the end of the day, I mean that limitation and inability to see a future and to cast a vision, because in that moment, he had a specific decision. It was a specific decision for him to say, "You're not a big enough fish," as opposed to, "Hey, Wayne, you're not a big enough fish today, but here's the vision for as you grow." Right. And
Mm.
if he'd have given me a vision for that, you're absolutely right. Heck, I might still be there today.